Susan Sarandon. I've got about 100 other things to say about that, but we're going to go to Susan Sarandon real quick. And I heard you talk about it a little bit in the last hour. And we're going to be joined in a few minutes by Justin Holsomback, if I pronounce his name correctly. I don't do names justice, but he's going to talk with us about his campaign, but also about what's going on in Georgia, and then we're going to tie it into what's going on in North Carolina. Susan Sarandon. Susan Sarandon was on Chris Hayes last night. If you watch the video and you listen to the video, it became a conversation about would she support Hillary Clinton over Donald Trump, and would Bernie Sanders supporters in general support Hillary Clinton over Donald Trump. Want to know? I like your observation that why are you asking us that in the heat of a debate of a primary? That's the wrong question to ask right now. Are you going to ask Hillary Clinton supporters? Are they going to support?
And they never do, of course.
They never do. But that's how the conversation started. And then it went over into Chris Hayes like, oh my God, I can't believe that this is even a possibility. You know, he was like so taken aback by the fact that she even hesitated, as though there's some type of innate obligation that we have to support Hillary Clinton above Donald Trump, above or even vote, period, right? You know, so and I'm not the one, I'm not Bernie or bust. I've never been. I am not a person who's going to tell you not to vote. I have never been that type of person. However, I do respect Bernie or bust, and I respect those people who would use their absence as a protest. So my thing is respect that possibility. Don't act as though that is something that is completely unheard of. That is their right. But that's how they got on the conversation. And then Susan Sarandon began to give an example of what some Bernie Sanders supporters believe, that Hillary Clinton would do more damage than Donald Trump. Lo and behold, the interwebs explodes and they run off and say Susan Sarandon says that Hillary Clinton would do more damage than Trump. Susan Sarandon says that she is going to support Trump over Hillary, every type of iteration, every variation thereof. Now, you hit on the meat and the potatoes of the conversation in the last hour, but I want to talk about this hypocrisy, this blatant hypocrisy with regard to context and sound bites, right? I had people come at me hard because I called Bill Clinton out based on what he said in terms of President Obama's legacy being awful. In context of his sentence, and what not in context, but in terms of the minute before and the minute after, that's exactly what Bill Clinton said. But if you expand it out and say 5 minutes before and 5 minutes after, then okay, he was talking about the Republican intransigence. I'll give you that, fine. I don't care. The reason I went ham on Bill Clinton and everybody got mad on Twitter is because I knew and I know that this is a tactic that Hillary Clinton's team has always used. This is a standard operating procedure. You take somebody out of context and you run them in the ground, and then you ruin them for at least 2 news cycles, and then you move on, knowing full and damn well that you took them out of context. This is exactly what they're doing with Susan Sarandon. And I mean, I don't really follow Susan Sarandon's work, so I really don't, not saying this in terms of defending her. It is the issue. It is the principle of the thing. They were just complaining about people taking Bill Clinton out of context, and now they're doing the exact same damn thing to Susan Sarandon like it's nothing. And this is my point is simply this. If you're going to play that game, then you cannot require of us not to do likewise. I'm not bigger than that. I'm sorry. I'm not the better person. I am petty. I am ignorant. I will be just as stupid as you, knowing good and well. I knew what Bill Clinton said, but I also knew the game that Bill Clinton plays. And so, yes, I went on an entire diatribe about Bill Clinton saying Barack Obama's legacy was awful. You know why? Because I knew this was coming around the corner. I knew Hillary Clinton's team was going to do the same exact thing. They have done the same exact thing. Yep. They did it to Bernie Sanders over and over.
Killer Mike.
They did it to Killer Mike.
Over the uterus comments, but yeah.
The uterus, right. You cannot require someone to give you nuance and context when you rob the entire national conversation of nuance and context. It doesn't work like that. And so this is my message to all the Hillary Clinton supporters who are out there. Remember this. Remember this game that you played with Susan Sarandon's words. Remember how big, and like I said, I don't really even know, I can't tell you one show that Susan Sarandon has been in, to be honest with you. so I can care. I mean, I care about her as a human being, but I don't know her, so I don't really care. It's the principle of the thing. You manipulate somebody's words, you better expect your words will be manipulated. You soundbite somebody, expect yourself to be soundbitten. I'm sorry, that's just how it goes.
Well,
And
they're
I'm the
rather,
person to
because
do it.
they've been doing the same thing with Rosario Dawson this week too, right? Like, because she had her open letter to Dolores Huerta, which
Yep.
she circulated, which is phenomenal. Rosario, you rock. If just some random chance you happen to catch our little show here. Um, but no, but you know, you're absolutely right. And the thing I didn't get to say, like, the one thing I love about, like I said, I love the Sanders Democrats. They can stand on their own 2 feet on the politics. They are passionate like the rank and file volunteers, right? They know the issues. When you listen to Killer Mike, when you listen to Susan Sarandon, when you listen to Nina Turner, when you listen to, well, any of the famous people who are supporting, right? You got the little cute
Right.
kids from the Hunger Games and Divergent, and they can actively engage on the issues and why this is important. You have other people saying, well, she's a woman and it's time, and yeah, there's a difference between our celebrity surrogates. And I really think that, yes, while, you know, for some people, Susan Sarandon may have gone off the reservation, so to speak, with her comments, at the same time, she's able to stand up and express her political convictions, and I respect that. Do I necessarily agree? Not really.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't. And this notion, you know, people forget that there are black people and Latino. There may be small number, but there are people who support Trump who are of color too. So
Right.
I mean, I'm not having this conversation with y'all about Trump right now. I'm not. We're not doing it. And the fact that Trump is even a real, you know, we have 2 groups to blame. Well, 3 groups. We can blame the misogyny and racism, xenophobia of the GOP. We can blame Bill Clinton for his pep talk, and we can blame the media.
Absolutely, they all have a part to play in this. I want to show one more thing on my screen here. And this is a tweet. This tweet literally, like, you say laugh out loud, and you don't really do it sometimes. This shit right here made me laugh so hard. This is from Adam Johnson, and I think, yeah, well, there's his profile right there. He's from Alternate. This was so funny. So Michael Cohen, if you don't know him, he used to be a speechwriter at the Department of State. And in regards to Susan Sarandon, he said, white privilege is a hell of a thing. Adam picked it up and said, really? White privilege is a hell of a thing? This made me laugh so hard.
That's the same thing we've been having all day, right? That's what they keep accusing the Bernie camp of. Like, somehow Hillary, a white woman from the suburbs whose only diverse experience as a child was basically as a missionary to immigrants, laborers, babysitting their children through her church, right? Like, that's really the only experience that she can relate to when she talks about something from her childhood, from her youth. And that was before she went on to do her Goldwater campaigning, which in '96 she was still proud of her conservative Goldwater anti-integrationist time. So, you know, miss me on that too. So it's fascinating how they try to position themselves as having the corner on the understanding of intersectionality, of privilege, of these conversations when they exude it. Like the clearest example of the issue and out of touchness today, right? Tweet today about the Clinton campaign, Clinton saying that the reason why young people really aren't going for it is because she wants them to work 10 hours a week to go to, you know, for an
I'm sorry, wait, what? Who said that?
Hillary Clinton today said that the reason why the young people don't go for her is because she wants them to work 10 hours a week, basically implying that college kids do not want to work. A lot of us out here, Hills, because I know your daddy paid you tuition, you worked for fun and to pad your resume. A lot of us have been working since we were able to get a work permit to work.
14, 15. My first job, listen, this is embarrassing, but I'll say it. My first job was 12 years old, shining shoes in a barber shop. And my dad didn't want me to take it, but I insisted on taking it because I wanted to make my own money. Now, I only worked for a week before they came down and said you're too young to work. Then my next job was I started my own little lawn business, going around the neighborhood cutting grass. But people work. Let me tell you about working in college. Students work. Listen, when I transferred and I started studying economics, all I had to do was study. That's all I had to do for about a month, right? And for that, no, 2 months. For those 2 months, I broke every curve on every test. I used to sit quietly in the room because people were pissed about who's breaking these damn curves, and it was me for 2 months. Then I couldn't do it. I had to go get a job. I had to pay. I had to pay for school. I had to pay for all these expenses. I had to go to get a job working at Radio Shack. And then all of a sudden, my grades went from being breaking the curve to being C's because you just don't have the time to study. Someone who is economically privileged, they do not have to worry about making rent in college. They don't have to worry about making their tuition. They don't have to worry about the fact that their parents can't afford to pay for them to go to school.
Eating.
They don't have to worry about eating, for the love of God,
Or buying books. Like, the struggle is real.
But here's the thing: it's the insinuation that you have the right to not have to work, but we have to be looked down upon because you think that we don't want to work. You want to use that as an excuse when working for you was a luxury, when working for us is a matter of survival. And working for us is not something that we can say, maybe we're going to do it today, maybe we're not. Working for us is something that says if we don't do it today, we're not going to be able to eat. And that takes away from our academic performance. I don't care who you are, where you are. You could always do better if you did not have to go to work. So that bullshit from Hillary Clinton.
Well, I mean, the other thing is, like, it's this notion that somehow people don't, a lot of us, especially when you're talking about people who, even if they are first, I'm echoing.
I don't hear any echo.
Okay. Even if they're first generation, I was first generation college student. I had my daughter between my sophomore, and I worked from the time I hit campus. I worked at Old Navy, and the Navy used to try and schedule me, especially if you're working off campus, right? If you're working a regular job, in theory, your boss is supposed to care about your work, your class schedule, but I would get, like, scheduled when I had tests, and I would tell them in advance, and they'd be like, oh, well, you're on a schedule. So, I mean, it's rough. I worked at Old Navy, then I worked on campus, and then I worked another job in the summertime. I mean, we do what we got to do, because even if we're talking about tuition, right? We're talking about making college tuition free. That's not talking about books. That's not talking about room and board. Like, my little sister's at Georgia State. She works between 13 and 20 hours a week at a job, and then she also is involved in student government, because these are the things that they tell you you're supposed to do. So if I only do the bare minimum and get average grades, but I'm working, okay, good for you. This notion that unless you're working, you won't value it.
Right.
I mean, it's total crap. Because that is also the big difference when we're looking at kids coming out of school and being able to get jobs, because your GPA matters, right? Yeah. When you're able to be involved in all these different groups and networking, so these are luxuries that do not happen for average students who do have to work. Like, parents might be able to scrape together money for room or board, but not both in a lot of situations. So, I mean, to see there that, well, it's only 10 hours, it's like the same logic they use with welfare reform. Like, when people work for it, they'll value it more.
And that's talking about. That's the thing. They are coming from a position where they don't even have to worry about it. They don't even have to equate that. They don't have to be concerned with, I know Bill Clinton came from an impoverished background, but he quickly accelerated and became an intellectual elite, and with opportunities that go along with it. He didn't have to work when he was at Oxford, right? He didn't have to work in these situations. And so it's this idea that the rest of us, you have to, if you don't work, then you are not deserving, while they simultaneously themselves don't have to work and they still get these opportunities. So it's this condescending gaze from their ivory tower that really looks down on the rest of the world, that says that, oh no, the person I have to bring in on this conversation, and I can't do it today because I don't have the link for him, and we have a guest coming on, it's Nick Nolan. He's the newest member of the Progressive Army. He sent me a video last week of him talking about the false narrative of meritocracy, and how it gives this perception that that everyone who is successful actually worked and earned it, and everyone who's not successful didn't work, and that's why they didn't earn it, and that's why they are in the condition that they are in. And he made a brilliant case against meritocracy, and that's exactly what we see with this comment from Hillary Clinton, that young people don't support me because they don't want to work. That's so disingenuous, but it also speaks to her privilege, which goes back to the other conversation of she is the quintessential example of the establishment, as well as somebody that is privileged. All right, let's shift gears. I want to bring on Justin Wholesome back, so we could talk a little bit. And I apologize.